IMAI, and NITI Aayog. We now move on to another interesting discussion that celebrates 50 years of Indic language computing in India. Our topic for today is 50 years of Indic language computing. How relevant is an English-first internet for digital Bharat? Join me in welcoming Mr. Vivekanand Pani, co-founder, Reverie Language Technologies, who will deliver the opening address. Our moderator, Mr. Rajesh Kalra, Executive Chairman, Asianet News, followed by our esteemed panelists, Mr. Dinesh Agarwal, founder and CEO, IndiaMart, Mr. Sandeep Nulkar, founder and CEO, BITS, and co-founder, Vernac Language Technologies, and Mr. Arvind Pani, co-founder and CEO, Reverie Language Technologies. A warm welcome to you all. Over to you, Mr. Pani.
Thank you. Namaskar. 50 years of Indian language computing. So someone said the other day, did we have computers in India then? So, well, yes, computers were not as common or of the same size, shape, or abilities of today. A wristband today has more computing power and a higher resolution screen than most advanced computers 50 years ago. Access to such machines was available in premier research institutes only to learn and research on the advances in science and technology. So it was always a choice either to follow trends or to create and set one. It requires vision and passion to architect the path in a direction that could change and replace how we have been doing something to something entirely different, unprecedented, unimaginably better, like the invention of the light bulb that has replaced how we make light over the world today. So the thought and meticulous work in defining and developing the fundamentals of how our languages could be used in computers and laying the foundations that can support the use, computing, analysis, development of tools for our languages in future, deep study and understanding and patience is necessary. Below is a brief history of how this was done and the legends who made it made it happen. Indic language computing is complex and a hard problem to solve. It's not linear as some popular linear script Latin is, and given the variety of languages and their scripts. So in 1970, Dr. R.M.K. Sinha, then a PhD student at Kanpur IIT, took to develop OCR technology for Sanskrit. So, that long ago, I don't have much details because I do not even know whether a scanner was used. So that led to the need to define how Devanagari ought to be represented in bytes for computing. So after the PhD, he, along with some students, worked on the Devanagari computer. Obviously, it took several years to develop that. The integrated Devanagari terminal or integrated Devanagari computer was released in IIT Kanpur in 1983 and was demonstrated in the Vishwa Hindi Sammelan in 86. The technology that was developed to make the IDC, that is the Devanagari computer, was named Graphics and Indian Script Technology. So that was abbreviated as GIST. And the architecture of GIST was such that it could exploit the commonalities of different Indian scripts and therefore could now use multiple languages, that is all the Indian languages together. Dr. Sinha continued to work on Indian languages for over 40 years, and he was instrumental in initiating NLP activities for Indian languages and developed the machine-aided translations Angla Bharati and Anu Bharati. And unfortunately, he died of cancer a few years ago. The GIST and IDC development team had a key student member, Mohan Tambe. Mr. Tambe brought significant details, understanding, and development inputs. He actually authored the first standards document for Indian languages that became the Indian Script Code for Information Interchange, which was released as the Bureau of Indian Standards, ISKI, 1988. GIST was carried forward by Tambe, Mr. Tambe at CDAC in 1988. So that is from IIT Kanpur. Now GIST was taken into CDAC to commercialize and to promote the technology. And now the new expansion of the acronym GIST became Graphics and Intelligence-Based script technology, intelligence replacing the Indian, as the development of script composition algorithm intelligence was built into the computing. And so that led to significant other developments. In those days, the typing of Indian languages on a typewriter actually meant fragmented shapes being there on keys, which would have to be typed, and different languages therefore would have different shapes. So one kind of typewriter could not be used, and learning to type in different languages would also become significantly difficult, and you required several layers of many different shapes to be able to type, and therefore Indian language typewriters were not easy to use and were not as popular. So development of this intelligence led to the creation of the InScript keyboard, which was also developed by Mohan Tambe. So the ISKI was revised with the InScript as the keyboard standard on the 101 key keyboard for the computers in those days, and it was released in 1991. And it also had, the Vedic inputs in Annexure G, which was authored by Dr. Ramanuja. Mr. Tambe also architected like the first spell checkers, which were developed by Pegasus, and he also created the first digital literacy program in our country. I think that would probably be the only so far as well. So this was done in the 1990s, and it was to educate and promote the use of Indian languages on computers using software and hardware from GIST CDAC. This program was called Program for Advanced Computer Education. So the education about using Indian languages is what was called advanced computer education in those days. So Mr. Tambe's team had stalwarts like S.K. Mohanty, Anupam Saurabh, Sanjay Bakshi, Shashank, Srikant Ranade, many. So Mr. Mohanty is the one who ended up creating fonts, and he defined the font standards, ISFOC, ISCLAP. His fonts have been developed from the earliest devices like the low resolution screens, the 9-pin dot matrix printers, ultra high resolution screens of today, the mobile phones, pagers, every device. So the standards that he created are also the only standards for use of Indian language font definition. The other stalwart, Dr. Shashank Pujari, who is also no more now, was the one who developed the first ASIC, the application-specific integrated circuit, which became the heart of the hardware for GIST terminals and the GIST card, which were the only de facto hardware to enable Indian language usage. It's also he also created the LIPS decoder called the Language Independent Program Subtitles, which was used by Doordarshan back in the days when some of us may remember that the local language movies used to be telecast by Delhi Doordarshan, but we used to see local language subtitles coming in different states that would be different languages. So that was the technology that he had developed. And he also developed the teleprompter, which the newsroom readers ended up using along with, so he and Anupam Saurabh did that. Raymond Doctor, one of the key, language tools developer, he has been probably the longest working linguist, computational linguist for Indian languages. He created the first machine learned transliteration system, which transliterated Indian names, and which has been in use by the Indian Railways for over 25 years now to show railway charts in multiple languages. So apart from these, these were the names from GIST, but in parallel there were other names. Like Dr. Cooper was a visionary, much ahead of his times. In fact, he started working on Indian language fonts display since 1983, and Modular Infotech, the company that he founded to work on, became the household name and probably the most popular choice within the publishing industry. So apart from these, Dr. Bidyut Chaudhary was the first, as early as 1995 to have worked on OCR, speech synthesis, and, a very deep research into speech. And his work has contributed vastly to the corpora to use languages. So corpus being one of the most valuable requirements today. for machine learning and other language usage. Dr. Hemant Darbari, who is the Director General at CDAC, he has been working on machine learning based machine translation since 1990s and has been one of the most has developed one of the most advanced mantra machine translation system. Dr. Ramanuja, as I mentioned, has been the author of the Vedic extension in ISKI, but he has also contributed vastly to Sanskrit software Desika, as well as the palm leaf manuscript editor Pandulipi. Professor Peri Bhaskar Rao from Deccan College, he was one of the earliest developers of text-to-speech and speech-to-text for Indian languages. So, so these are the legends who have made significant contributions to Indian languages. I'm sorry I have taken more time. We at Reverie salute to such legends for their foundational work.
Thank you.
What do you, Rajesh?
Thank you so much, Vivek. In fact, what you just said was so interesting. I could have allowed you to go on for the next 50 minutes. It was all a learning. And let me, confess, the person who you accused of not knowing that computing happened in Indian languages 50 years ago was I. I asked you that question. And of course, a lot of it is what I'm hearing for the first time. And it would be great if we can actually do a separate session on only what you just talked about in some more details and get to know some of those stalwarts even better. And, when we start talk about Indian languages, you can't, what we must know that in this country, only 10% of the people speak English, and almost all of them have already accessed internet. And if internet has to grow in the country, which it is growing, it is the fastest internet, growth country in the world. It has to happen in Indian languages, and which is what we are here to discuss. Because even though it is the fastest growing, and we keep hearing a lot, the challenges are aplenty. You talked about fonts and typing and keyboards. Everything is an issue. It's been using 50 years, but nothing is standardized. You ask people, when you recruit people who know how to type in Hindi also, and Devanagari, for example, they would know one kind of keyboard, not the other. So to start, we really want to probably, Arvind, we'll come to you because you have done a lot of, work in this field. Where do you see this happening? Will we reach a stage which is as standardized as what English is right now? But you remember, we have so many different languages there. Yes, Arvind.
Yeah, so that's right. So, Rajesh, thank you so much for the background. And before I really touch upon the aspect of standardization, I would like to mention a couple of things. Maybe 50 years of Indian language computing is also probably a milestone for us to really pause a bit and reflect, right? And what are the major themes of reflection? English came to India because of British rule. We all know that, and English has been a primary language, an aspirational language, and an integral part of India as well. Now, having said that, we are not really talking about whether it is English, choice of English, or Indian language. We are really talking about what you just mentioned, that elevating the level of the experience of Indian languages, ease of access and ease of usage of Indian languages to the level where English is today. So that's equality is what we are talking about. Now, the points to reflect really are that when British ruled us, they designed various systems, right, to be able to effectively rule India. And bureaucracy is one of those. Education in English language is one of those. Then our judiciary is one of those. We probably have, it's about 74 years of our independence. We have probably never stopped and said that, okay, what was designed by British to rule India effectively, does it still make sense for a free India, right? Now, so coming from there, I would like to also mention that when we are reflecting, and today we say internet is a big revolution that's happening that could digitally include every citizen in India, right? Now, it's important for us to really think that are we building an internet ground up for India that can potentially leverage that can leverage the potential of every single Indian that has got access to internet. I would like to draw parallels here. Now, India has already gone through a media and communication revolution. India has also gone through a telecom revolution, and both of these are massive. You come from the media background, and you know the revolution that India has gone through. And none of these two revolutions that India has been through were actually kind of discriminatory. So they were inclusive by design. Whereas internet somehow has got built for English by design, and therefore it is kind of discriminatory and it is non-inclusive. We are just trying to adapt the internet from English to Indian languages. We have not thought about how do we go and build the internet ground up in for Indian language usage. So
What
that is
did what did the Chinese do? They have just one language. It's not so many languages as us, but did they build ground up?
it's very interesting that you asked this question. So China also like India, right? When internet first came to China, it came in English. It was not in Chinese. And China had two options in front of them. And obviously, because internet did not originate in China and it came to China in English, obviously no content was existing in China in their language. So there were two choices in front of them. One is that adopt the English language internet and then try to adapt it subsequently to Chinese. Second one is really change the game for China itself, that we will build everything ground up in Chinese language for China, which is what they did. And that is one of the reasons why the contribution of the internet economy is so massive in China, and the contribution about 7% of their GDP is coming from the Chinese economy, and that is massive, right? So that is the choice that they made. Whereas in India, because at that point in time, most of the internet users were English users, decision makers, influencers, all of them knew English. That is why we chose the path to really build the internet in English language. And
can't it happen in parallel now that 10% of the population which speaks and understands English has already been covered? Can't we take the Chinese approach for the rest of the 90% of the people?
Of course, we can take that. So I will give you very simple examples. Now, we have Aadhaar card now, which is kind of every citizen in India has got an Aadhaar card. Okay. Now, we all know that couple of years back, there was a drive to really link Aadhaar and PAN card. Okay. And the messages came to us only in English language, only in English. And it is unimaginable that 1 billion Aadhaar card holders, every one of them will actually understand English language, follow the instructions and do that on their own, right? So one very simple step is that, can Aadhaar card not be a medium for us to capture the preference of language for that citizen? If we do that, then every single government to citizen service to that individual can be delivered in Indian language itself without having to really rely on English. So we have to devise our own ways in which the entry into or the gateway into the internet can be, the starting point should be in the language the user prefers. And it is not that we enter into the internet through English and then try to figure out how we can go to find out.
There are two things there. No, one is the availability of content in the language that the person understands. The other is to have the interface which allows the person to interact in that language, whether it's the keyboard or the touchpad or whatever. Both of them are a challenge right now. And you have, as you know, I remember we had this discussion almost 7-8 years ago as well. We are still there, or have there been changes since then? Okay, before you go on, there has been actually been a business case where Indian languages have been used. So, this Mr. Dinesh Agarwal is there. IndiaMart has been using Indian languages for its work, right? Can you try and tell us what exactly has been happening there? What has been your experience with Indian languages and what have you done?
Yeah, thank you, Rajesh. So, when I started to initially, India Mart was all in English because all of it was for export import businesses. When in 2009 we pivoted back to domestic B2B platform, and more so when smartphones became more popular around 2013. That's when we started to look at Indian language usage at IndiaMart. And there were multiple different failed attempts were happening around us
Mhm.
to trying something on whether the call to action button should be in your language, whether the actual content should be in the language. And then slowly and slowly we understood that language has three different components.
Mhm.
One, the written script of the language or the alphabets that you use. Second, the how do you type it, or how do you, and third is the how do you hear or communicate with each other. So we
Mhm.
found that though the entire computing has been stuck into the written piece of the language, but language has very little to do with the written piece. The language is more of a oral language, which it's a mother tongue. It's not a mother hand. So the written piece is very different than written is. Even today, when we say illiterate, means he cannot write. He still can speak his language.
Of course.
So everybody knows how to read a language, or how to speak a
Speak a
language.
language. Mm.
But reading and writing is very different, and that actually changed the game for us. So
Mhm.
today on India Mart, you can go and search in 9 different language if you speak to them. So you
So how
can.
does it work? You speak in your language, but the back end it still does the search and all in
Yeah, so
English.
what happened in the dictation on dictaphone or the piece has
Mhm.
been happening for the last 25 years or so.
Mhm.
I heard the first dictaphone was sometime around 1999 or something. And then Microsoft and IBM have been working on it for a long period of time and trying to understand the accent by which you speak. But then with the advent of machine learning and artificial intelligence, they figured out it is not very important to really hear everything out, but it is far more important to guess everything out. And somewhere around 2018, 17, 18, the final Google update that came into Android, that could almost understood, even if you, cut out few words from in between. It actually goes on to writing and then corrects backward. So as you speak the fifth word, it goes back and changes the first two words based upon what it guesses right. So
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
what? So you can speak in Tamil, or you can speak in Hindi, or you can speak in that. It will understand the your basic keyboard, basic microphone will convert it into the native language if it is configured properly on your phone. Then we will use the translation service. So instead of trying to actually get all the 7 crore product content into 7 different language, we said, okay, there are only 5% people searching for it. I will convert the 5% queries into English. So you search in Tamil, you can speak into Tamil, or you can type into Tamil. Typing is far more difficult than speaking, because
Mhm.
typing means you have to get inside the keyboard complexities. So you can type into Tamil, which goes into as a Tamil word, then it converts that into an English word. And since our English search was already there, so we run an English search and throw you back with the photos and prices of the product.
So
So
that's
you,
interesting. That's interesting. So what you are saying is, of course, speaking is far easier than typing. And if you talk about speaking, you're looking at voice. Sandeep, what are your experiences with
let me
respect
just
to
complete
that?
one little thing here.
Yeah, go ahead, please. Sandeep, just
So
wait on, please.
Yeah, sure.
on the speaking side, and then I'm saying every time we have to fight it out to promote our own language, we get stuck at the keyboard and the script part or the alphabet part. I think if we just separate the two out, I can write English in Devanagari. I can write Hindi in Roman. So the latest experiment that we are working, so many people are typing Hindi in Roman. I remember being a computer science engineer when I was in US. I used to write back the entire letter in Roman in Hindi, entire letter, because my writing was far more bad that I could, and so entire letter I could write. Even today in our office, many a times we use our tagline is "काम यहीं बनता है" is in Roman letters. If
No,
you
point taken. So, if speech is an issue, Sandeep, you have been working a lot on voice. What has been your experience, and what can be done to make things easier for people to use? And of course, we'll come back to what Dinesh said. You don't have to worry about the keyboard and all. Purists may not agree with it, whatever. But Sandeep, what's your view on what we just heard?
So, thank you, Rajesh. I think I would just like to begin by saying this the way it should have been said all along. An English first internet, I think, is irrelevant for digital Bharat. Yeah. Going a step further from what Arvind said, if English came to India because of the British, then an English first internet is actually what keeps an average Indian from being truly independent. I think if the best of estimates still peg the number of Indian speakers at about, say, 2 million, then we are talking about nearly 1.2 billion people for whom the internet actually makes no sense. And we are not even talking, sorry?
We are discussing all this in English.
Yeah, absolutely. That's part of the problem. And then we are not even talking about the over, say, 200 million people who aren't even literate, which is where exactly the voice piece comes in. So I think Digital Bharat actually needs interfaces that allow them to interact with the internet using voice, and which is where applications need to have better voice inputs and output and input and output technology, which according to me is the need of the hour. That's the only way a large number of illiterate Indians are going to be able to interact with your applications and services, could be government or private. And I think perhaps the most important point that I would like to highlight here is that an English first internet is hardly UA compliant. Now, imagine how welcoming the internet is for even a literate Indian who prefers to access it in their language. So, we are practically working in silos. So now I can have an email ID in my own language, but I'm pretty sure that email ID is going to be rejected by most applications if I try to sign in using that email ID. So I think being universal acceptance ready or UA ready implies building applications that are ready to accept, probably validate, store, process, and even display all domain names, email addresses correctly across languages, across scripts, and across even special characters. As in, special characters to one language could be very common to the language, native language per se. And I think I would also like to bring up the importance of CLIL. CLIL is basically CLIL, Content and Language Integrated Learning. As in, it's a very, very obvious fact that we are not really going to be able to create content in Indian languages overnight or even translate it overnight. Neither are a billion plus Indians going to be able to learn English overnight. So I think a stopgap arrangement could be using this concept of content and language integrated learning, where obviously whether or not we like it, and I'm trying to be as apolitical about this as possible. If more than 50% Indians speak Hindi, then Hindi is where most of the content is going to be created initially. A large number of Indians already understand English. Incorporating a concept like content and language integrated learning, which basically means teaching another subject. If you're learning a number of subjects in your own language, you pick one of those subjects and learn it in Hindi, for example. And that actually allows you, as a stopgap arrangement till access to the internet is available in your language, to at least be a little more comfortable with content and with interacting with internet applications as compared to doing it in English. So I think that's something that I would peg very high. And of course, we also need to have better and cheaper machine translation technology so that a number of language professionals and language service providers can make significantly higher contributions in terms of the number of words they are bringing online in regional languages. So, in a nutshell, these are my thoughts, and of course, I will comment on anything.
No, interesting. So, Arvind, since you have been on both sides of the spectrum, you have heard what people want to do. You have been trying to work on the Indian languages for internet for more than a decade now. How would you think? What will be your response to what Dinesh said, and then what Sandeep said?
Yeah, so I will take Dinesh mentioned about and this is a valid concern. There are many people who say that okay, we are more comfortable typing the Indian languages in Roman script than in the native script, right? And I'm going to combine that with the other contemporary debate which has been going on. We all know that as part of national education policy, right?
That's right.
Is the professional education also needs to be imparted in Indian languages. And there has been a debate that, okay, how do we come up with terminologies, say for medicine and for science, technology, all of those in Indian languages? That is not feasible, and that is the reason why professional education should continue in English language. So for both of this, my response would be that, is it really what users are opting today, whether education in English or typing in English? Is it because they want to do it by choice, or is it really because of lack of options? Right now, for typing, let me give you a very simple example. You mentioned about standardization earlier. Okay, we still do. You are right that we still do not have a keypad for Indian languages that is standard across all mobile phones, all models, like Quilty, which is there across the board for English language. Now, the other challenge is that digital literacy in English is introduced at the primary school level, right? Digital typing is introduced to children in school at the primary school level, but digital literacy in Indian languages is not introduced. So when we have not learned something, how to use it, then it is highly unlikely that when we grow up and we use the internet in the digital medium, we will have any means to tap onto the learning that we should have got when we were kids. The second one is I also spoke about education. Now, it is unfathomable that education related to science, technology, medicine did not exist before the British ruled us, before we learned English language. We had those, right? But for whatever reason, we did not allow those to grow. And those have almost died their natural death. And that is the reason why today we say that we do not have any other choice and we can't come up with the terminologies. Now, my answer to all of those things is that whatever has happened has happened. But there is still a starting point. It's a fresh start for us. If we can really think of building internet for India, for Indians in Indian languages, having our education, options of education available in Indian languages, and like we have for English language, there are a lot of people who will opt for. Now, I will just conclude my views on this one, which is one thing that if we are not giving the choice of language to citizens, how on earth are we saying that Indians can actually go ahead and exercise the fundamental rights, right to equality, right to freedom, right to access to justice? All of these things are English, right? So right to choice of our own language becomes a fundamental right in my opinion.
All right. Yeah, Dinesh, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I know. see, we all want to do our mother tongue, and so I'm saying as long as we are focused on tongue and not the script, we will do lot more benefit to our mother tongue. So let's get the voice right. Let's get the content in Hindi or in whatever Tamil in those languages which can be read out, or video. So voice and video are, there is no debate of the that we should have a content in Hindi and Tamil and Bengali and Marathi, but voice and video are far more easier because there is no fight of standard keyboard there. There is no fight of a standard keyboard. Everybody can use, and that's why you see on YouTube. See, for a lot of people, YouTube has become the primary medium of search. So I think voice and video, let us focus on, and then get on to the written piece of library of books or library of the content. And when it comes to the library of the content, again let us keep language and script separate, because if we keep trying to make the script survive, we will lose our language also.
Even in English, if you notice, because most of the people are using their mobile phones, they actually are speaking the sentences, and it's getting
speaking in the phone.
Yeah, and then either a voice note goes, or it actually keys in those words and goes.
So if we can get more voice content, more video content, if we can make more text readable into voice and videos, that would do wonders for us.
So what is the number of people using internet in Indian languages right now, Arvind? It's about 550 million, isn't it?
It's about, so number of people, I will not say using, but number of people who have preference for Indian languages and are connected. That number is 540 million. I just wanted to clarify that my point of view about options was, so voice and video, I completely agree with what Dinesh is mentioning, right? And those are kind of easier mode to be able to interact. But what I'm saying is that the option should be left to the user. And we should not be forcing upon the user whether you use voice, video, or text. So the growth of text, and there is no country, even advanced languages and countries like in the US, where voice and videos have been able to replace text. They have their place, they have their own places, and they are kind of complementary to one another, and they must coexist. So we can't just deprioritize one medium to be able to promote the other.
Vivek, you have something to add to this debate? It's an interesting debate, and I agree that, I need all the options and let the choice be mine.
Well, I don't really have much to add, because Sandeep and Dinesh, they come from the industry where they are serving users. There is just one thing that I would say, something that Dinesh did mention. So I have seen a lot of people who do write messages or text using the English script, but in local languages. Now, I have tried informally, though, taking a little survey to ask them, if you were to write a letter to your family in your language, would you still write that, because you are writing WhatsApp messages in English letters, but local language? Would you still write a letter in English? So the answer is that, well, it is difficult and it is why. But if I'm writing, I can write it. So the fact remains is that in spite of all the technological developments in the past 50 years that we have been working for Indian languages, there is very little that has been done to be able to give an equal ground for people to be able to do what they want to do. So they are unable to write because it is difficult, but they would like to do that probably if they could.
Okay, that's interesting. So, Sandeep, you want to add to this debate? It's been an interesting debate so far on what exactly is required. Some of the things we have been discussing for several years, but some new points came today.
I think voice video vernacular, that's exactly what people say is the future of the internet in India, and which pretty much summarizes the points that were made by the co-panelists. So I think I would conclude on that note that there should be an option for the user. Content, be it voice or text, should be available. That should be our aim. Although I completely agree with Dinesh that you could sacrifice one for the other if it's going to speed up bringing more content online and making the internet more usable for the end user. Finally, that's the
Yeah,
aim.
I agree. And before we go ahead, we are absolutely delighted and honored to have three stalwarts of Indian language computing who have helped a lot in developing Indian language for the internet. Mr. Mohanty, Dr. Ramanujan, and Mr. Bidyut Chowdhury among us. Vivek, will you like to please say a few things about them? Thank you so much.
Sure.
It's a pleasure to have three of you here with us.
Thanks, Rajesh. And first of all, my salute to you, Dr. Chaudhary, Dr. Ramanuja, and Monty sir. I obviously stand too small to be able to speak about you. I have perhaps very briefly tried to mention about the work that you have done, but the fact remains is that everything that you have done has stood as the foundational stone in history of Indian language computing, over which we are trying to develop further. I would like you to speak a few words. I know that I can't order it, so I'm just going by the English alphabet order. Dr. Chaudhary, sir, please. Sir, you are
I think
currently on mute. We can't hear you. Can you please unmute yourself?
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me in this debate and also giving this week of honor my work in the language domain. It is about 45 years I've been working on it. What I feel is that, the so-called language technology research activities are hampered even now by so-called corpus, data corpus, in proper form. This is not yet ready properly. And you may nowadays get, for example, the newspapers in electronic form, but you have to do a lot of work on it. For example, in Bengal, the most famous newspaper is Anand Bazar, ABP, who have a couple of TV channels also. One is in Hindi. Their newspapers, you can take maybe all the corpus out of it, but you have to do a lot of work on it before using for research, which can help you. This is one aspect I have noted. The second thing is that in India, we have some big organization like DOE. Once upon a time, it was called DOE. Nowadays, it is called DIET. So this organization is looking after the language aspects mostly internationally. And for example, in case of the Unicode, they have done some very silly things, because perhaps, the appropriate experts in language or scripts, etc., are not there with them. You will see, for example, in case of Bengali, the first place of the 8x8 place, sort of, Unicodes. The first one is that of a character which is obsolete now. It is obsolete maybe 200 years ago. but this one has been introduced and not now, not early. It has been done 2-3 years ago. And I objected, I came to know about it and I said that, okay, it can be there, but you have a place where you can put up historical character sets. Similarly, there are certain things which are not there, which they have done in a very, I would say, indirect way, making things more complicated. Like the so-called, it can be easily solved by introducing one more character shape, but they have not done.
Mhm.
I thought and I could win about one more character. My name, so I know it very well. The last character is Taw without a vowel, and that has a special shape in Bengali character. They will not introduce it. They will say that, okay, any such, unvoweled consonants can be represented by a Holland sign. But we said that no, in our script, this is not so. And I fought and ultimately won with the help of Bangladesh, computer committee, etc. I contacted many people, and there was a meeting held in Delhi, and there also, we all together, shouted, etc. And ultimately we agreed. Why they did not want to change? No, it has already been used. This for a, means so many things have been made to in Unicode without it. So if we do it now, it will create problem. But science is always progressive, so it has to progress.
Mhm.
Sir,
Things are there, So
Yeah.
there are so many other things, but I was told that I should speak for 1 minute. So let me
yes, sir.
stop, please.
Thank you so much. I think we should speak speak separately on this sometime. Thank you so much. Yes, Vivek.
But yeah, Adri, you're right. And as we are celebrating 50 years, Unicode is trying to celebrate 30 years. But there has been a different agenda for Unicode that they would like to, make archaic characters also have, and that obviously hampers in our contemporary use of our languages. And as a nation, we do not, we can't, yeah, we can't afford to lag behind in this. So, Dr. Rama, your contributions into ISKI, and you have made significant contributions into Sanskrit and Vedic. So, a few words from you also, sir, please.
Thanks for the opportunity. It's also good to see Dr. B.B. Chaudhary for after many years, and I'm happy he's hale and hearty. Yeah. My intention basically was about a heritage. I was all the time just worried about the cultural heritage of the country. And my belief is, of course, languages do carry them in them. It is not a separate addition into that, it is inbuilt. So if a person has a culture, has a heritage, he must express it through his native language. So in that sense, we were just trying to see. Suppose we want to know our scriptures, we want to know our value system, our ethics, our identity, etc. Then necessarily we need to go into the oldest available literature. Was admitted by everyone today is Vedas are the ones, and of course they do carry speech aspects very well inbuilt into them. The intonations are part of every alphabet. We call it as CVA combination: consonant, vowel, and accent. Together, it's a triad in any given akshara. So I was fortunate, of course, Dr. Bhatkar and deity support, etc. We could build in. It was basically an annex. It was not part of the basic ISKI, but it was an annexer, add-on kind of thing. But at least that was possible. And to this day, people now are able to use Vedas with their swaras for search, for research, for further study. I have been, of course, teaching Vedas and then doing research, publishing, including those accent. When I go to the press, printing press, I just carry my file only for printing because they can't compose, they won't understand the nuances, etc. But still, it is possible that delta X we could add to whatever the stage was earlier. So I'm quite thankful for at least someone remembering these kind of contributions. I think It should be because of Mohanty, I feel. Yeah, he has been one of my co-traveler maybe for more than 3 decades. And he has also helped in developing very rare scripts like Grantha, within them Vedic Swaras, and within that Samveda, which is further more complex, etc. Yeah, fortunately, the country has a solution. If only it can get into curriculum, I would feel that will be the best way of making this popular. Today, I don't know why people don't have languages when somebody studies a professional courses. They have nothing to do with each other. They can as well. There is no opposition. One should also study languages, whatever discipline somebody chooses. So, if the curricular changes can happen, I bet a little on the new education policy. Suppose if the government can bring that in. In fact, DIT should not be doing this. MHRD should be doing this language technology business. Unfortunately, they are so far not showing any interest. If that happens right from primary level, any Indian language someone uses with the necessary cultural inputs, that will go a long way. We hope that will come. That day will be sooner.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
So
Thank you for
you're
the
absolutely
opportunity.
right, sir, that the computing and the standards for language usage has been kept away into a technology department that is away from the education. So
Yeah,
therefore, there is incoherence in between the two, and they are moving in different directions. Right, sir.
yeah.
Yeah. So, Monty sir, you have founded the fonts and type design for all Indian languages. You founded the fonts division at CDAC, and you have done phenomenal work for all scripts, all languages, devices, printers, etc. Few words from you, sir, please. We have got just 3 minutes, sir.
You have to unmute yourself, Mr. Mohanty.
2 minutes, in fact. Sir, please unmute. We can't hear you. We have got only 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I started working the 35 years was there. Therefore, I had the opportunity to standardize our scripts the way it really is. And standardization is such an important thing. It, it has got multiple facilities and effective.
Can you be a little louder, please?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Better.
I had focused on the standardization because I understood that it's very much important for any language technology product development. So the standardization eventually helped us in developing quality fonts based on the Indic language solutions. And it helped us in sketching. It helped us in standards are very important, which in our industry mostly it is ignored. Language technology or art, science, architecture, any field. Whenever you develop a product, one must focus on the standard because that facilitates the multiple. So the fonts developed when I realized that companies are not following any standards. So therefore, my fonts were focused on the future technology and future devices. I could understand that there will be a time will come, the devices and the technology will overpower the human being. So therefore, the standards were designed in such a way they control the technology and the devices and leave it on them. Uh, so you were talking about the Unicode. Unicode has a lot of characters, not only in Bengali, Korean, Kannada, Telugu, many other languages, Devanagari. also. Since there is no clear-cut distinction when of font, he doesn't know the nuances of the Indian script. So they use wrong shapes for composing characters. So that creates a lot of chaos, and today's internet is full of chaos itself.
Right, sir. So,
We need a standard keyboard with maybe voice assisted. Those who cannot type fast, they can speak and keyboard should work. Uh, then voice assisted engines in which uh, uh, internet itself should help the user to.
right, sir. Sir,
Thank you.
so we have run out of time. You are absolutely right that, focus on archaic, archaic focus has definitely diluted our contemporary needs. And that has been a huge reason why we have a lot of contaminated data and slower growth in Indian language usage and adoption. With that, thank you so much, sir. And over to Rajesh. Yeah.
Well,
Thank you so much, Vivek.
concerned.
Dr. Mohanty, I think there's a connectivity issue at your end, and some of the things were not very clear. So thank you so much, everyone. We have had an interesting discussion. Some disagreements, okay, no disagreements, but how to go about it, probably there have been some divergent views. But what is certain is that we all agree that internet must grow in Indian languages, and there is no option. And it should use anything that is possible, whether it's voice, video, or keyboard, or whatever is required. And we need a lot of work on all these issues, and good to have people who have been working on these things. And absolutely an honor to have Dr. Chowdhury, Dr. Ramanujam, and Dr. Mohanty here, who have actually, done the groundwork for all of us to, work on and make things better for Indian languages as far as the internet is concerned. I once again thank everyone for joining in. It was a very interesting discussion, and I think it could have gone on for a very long. As I said right at the beginning, just the note that Vivek talked about itself could have taken one full session. Thank you very much once again, everyone, for doing this, and thank you, IEMI, also for organizing this session. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Thank you,
Namaskar.
Vivek. Also,
Thank you.
okay.
Thank you.